Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's a nice and quiet night in the house tonight, and all the kids are put to bed. Usually I don't record at nighttime, so my lighting is a little bit different, so I apologize for that. I'd like to make a video talking about the tool posters that I've designed over the years. I started designing tool posters probably around 2017, 2018. It was when I was kind of getting back into Tool again after not listening to them for a long time. Around the time that I started listening to them, again, there were rumors about a new album coming out, and there was a lot of excitement around that. And then they finally did announce it, and around that same time is when I was like really going nuts, creating. And it got a little bit out of hand with how much time I was spending designing all these posters and everything, and not really being able to do anything with them. But I still have all of them, and we're going to take a look at them in this video. All right, so we're just going alphabetical through all of my files and folders, so I'm not really going in any particular order here. But the very first one is a typographic lyrics poster for the album 10,000 Days. And this poster features all of the lyrics to every single one of the songs that are on this album, and the album cover face there is masked inside of the lyrics. I remember spending a lot of time on this one trying to get the lighting just right to make it to where you could see everything that was kind of showing through there against the background. This was a challenging one to put together, but once I got all the lighting and everything figured out, it really came together pretty well. I've always really liked this album. There isn't really a Tool album that I don't like. I would actually say that I like the later albums better than their earlier albums. I know that a lot of people would really disagree with me on that, but I've always said it like this: I like Deep Tool better than Angry Tool. And I started listening to them when Lateralus came out, so the two albums that have come out since that one have been much more in line with Lateralus rather than Anima or Undertow. And I'll show you like a little snapshot of behind the scenes here. This is the text that was all put together for this, and then I bring this into Photoshop and mask over it and let that artwork show through. Here's another one that I did for the album 10,000 Days. This follows a format that I kind of came up with for the album Lateralus by Tool, and the whole concept of it is these lines, circles, and dots and things like that. And I had already done a very in-depth one for Lateralus, so I wanted to do one for 10,000 Days, but it's obviously not nearly as intricate as the Lateralus one. But obviously the title track in 10,000 Days has a lot to do with the rotation of Saturn, so I wanted to kind of represent that visually here. And I actually really do enjoy all of the in-depth, very intricate things that you have to do in order to make something like this work. I really like zooming in and getting all of those measurements exactly right. And so whenever I do actually have the time to work on something like this, I really enjoy it. And then going around in this circle right here, it says 10,000 days and the fire is long enough, you're going home. This is one area that I can really relate a lot to Maynard. I did lose my mother as well, and every time I hear this song, it makes me think of her. All right, here's another one that I did for 10,000 Days as well, kind of a very similar concept. I think I did this one before I did the red poster, but it's got the track listings going around in that Saturn ring right there, and then all of these little abstract geometric shapes kind of going all over the place. There's a lot going on in this. When we switch over to outline view, you can see that this is just a huge jumbled mess of geometry, but that's exactly as I intended it, and I love how this turned out. Here's one that I started to do for Anima, but I never actually did finish it. Looking back on this, I don't know exactly where I was going with it, but I noticed that I put the song titles right here in kind of like a wave pattern, which does kind of make sense if you look at the album cover itself and then look at the video for Stinkfist. But it would be interesting to come back to this and see what I can do to complete it. One thing that I have learned about design in general is that if one design concept works really well for one thing, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work for everything. And I can honestly say that nothing has quite worked as well for other posters as it did for Lateralus, and we'll take a look at that one a little bit later. And I also just noticed that I have two in a row right here that are solid. They are breaking that pattern. All right, here's a typographic lyrics poster for Anima. I think this one worked out really well. The green colors in here were very interesting and very unique, especially when you line up all of Tool's albums. For Lateralus and 10,000 Days, you see black and white, but for Undertow, you see red, Anima, you see green, and for Inoculum, you see blue and gold. So it is very interesting to see green in that lineup. But obviously I couldn't use the actual album cover itself because not enough of the album artwork was going to show through the lyrics. So I chose the image of the eye right here, and I think it works really well. All right, here's one that I put together where I took all of the studio albums, including Opiate, and combined them together in one poster. And we have right here 5 columns of text, and it has all of the lyrics from start to finish, starting with Opiate all the way to Fear Inoculum. This one was a whole lot of fun to plan and design and to figure out exactly what artwork would go into each letter. This is probably my favorite one out of all of the ones that I've done, except for the Lateralus line art one, but I've always wanted to get this one printed, and I may actually do that soon. And I also created a black and white option of this same poster, and I think it looks just as cool as the color one. Here's a similar request that I got here from someone. They wanted something just a little bit simpler, so I just lined up the album covers of each album and just made it a lot more of a simpler concept. It's not too difficult to pull something like this off. You actually use the exact same technique, but you just make sure that the artwork that you're using to mask through the text is all one piece of artwork. And here's an interesting concept that I put together, kind of like a classical music type of poster, if you could call it that. But the whole idea of it is that one image is representing the album as a whole, and I wanted it to be very similar to the type of images that you would see on old classical music CDs, where it has a really nice classy presentation for the typography, and then also some kind of a nature image. So overall, I did kind of like a thunderstorm for 10,000 days. And then for Anima, I did like rushing waters going up on rocks right here. I think this one turned out really nice. And then for Fear Inoculum, I chose, for some reason, purple bellflowers. I don't really remember exactly why I chose this flower. If you know anything about this flower and think you might know why I ended up choosing this particular image, then definitely let me know down in the comments, but I can't remember to save my life. And here's the one that I put together for Lateralus. I chose this particular image of a rose because it was the closest one that I could find that actually looked somewhat like a spiral pattern. And then for undertow, it looks like I just chose an image of an undertow. I think it works really well, but part of me is tempted to go in here and make the entire image red. All right, here's one that somebody wanted me to do, and it's just the lyrics to Numa repeated over and over and over again. They wanted to get this printed out and then hung up in their newborn baby's room, and I think it works really well for that. And I just love this artwork. It looks so cool showing through these lyrics. So this right here was a fun one to put together. Somebody reached out to me and said, hey, H is my favorite Tool song, so please design something that is original and unique to that song. So I did this really cool layout of the type in the shape of a letter H, and what you see right here are these little green things that are representing scales. And then for some reason, it looks like I added in some stars just kind of randomly peppered throughout here. I think it works really well. And we got like a little abstract geometric shape right here. And then of course in the background, we have the snake kind of going through there. I think the composition of that against the background works really well here. H is also one of my favorite Tool songs, so it was a lot of fun to do this. All right, cool. We're getting here a lot sooner than I expected we would, so let's zoom in on this and really take all of this in. This is probably, to date, the most time that I've ever spent on any one poster. So this is for the album Lateralus, which is my favorite Tool album personally, and there are several references here throughout here. I'm going to see if I can remember everything that I built into this, but everything that I put in here is a measurement or some kind of variation of 1.618, which is the golden ratio in mathematics. So that means that every single one of these shapes right here, whether or not it's the size or the spacing, it has something to do with that number. And there's another one here. There's a couple of things in here that look like Sputnik. So this one right here, and then this one right here. And from what I can remember, they are exactly opposed to each other. I think that that's what's going on. We've got like, I think they were supposed to represent an eye. So like I1, I2, and I3 right here. So third eye. And there's one other thing that I'm looking for. Oh yeah, okay, it's right there. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines right here. And one line over here. 5-1, Area 51. And then of course the entire design itself starts at the center of this eye and then spirals out, just like it says in the track title Lateralus. And then if you're familiar with the back cover of the CD of Lateralus, you'll see all of these circuitry things happening here. That's where all of this came from. So I kind of took that general concept and then just expanded it out and then put in a couple of extra things and made everything based on the golden ratio. And then I've always been personally very fond of the bottom right here. So how all of these curve right here going to the center, and then how we have Lateralus spelled out across the bottom right here. In fact, I probably like the bottom of the poster more than I like the top. And I don't remember if there's anything significant about the numbers here other than the fact that they were put together with the golden ratio, but I think it's probably just meant to represent an eye or like some kind of an abstract geometric pattern. But I spent a ton of time on this, and it's one of my favorite things that I've ever done. And I also did a color version with a little bit of a thicker spiral right here. Colors red and blue were taken directly from some of the album's artwork where you see like red, blue, and yellow. And so that was fun just to do a nice color variation there. All right, and here is a typographic lyrics poster for Lateralus right here. So we're just showing here what's now considered to be the official album artwork for the album itself. And the artwork is showing through the lyrics just like we did with the other ones. Here's another one that I did for 10,000 Days, and you can actually see the poster inspiration that I took from over here and just kind of put together something, and it looks like I never actually finished it. But from what I remember, I think this turned into the other red 10,000 Days poster. But it would be fun to go back and finish this one day when I actually have some time. All right, and here's one that I did for Opiate, and this one is based on album artwork that they did a little bit later on. I want to say that I tried with the original album artwork, but the problem is that it was just too minimalist to really do anything with. So obviously something like this is going to work a lot better. All right, and Tool is also one of the periodic tables that I've done. So we actually have every track that's listed on here, including Opiate, and it has all of their songs listed here along with the band members and the album release dates and a lot of this information that has to do with each one of these albums. And when I was putting this together, thankfully it worked out like this, but I wanted the artwork itself to kind of look like wings. So that's why it goes up in these two different directions here. It just happened to be that I had the exact same number of blocks on the left as I needed on the right. And so that's pretty cool that that worked out that way. All right, here's a set of really minimalist posters that I did. I think these may have been the very first ones that I did, and it kind of spearheaded the entire thing. So this is like a really abstract minimalist prescription bottle for Opiate. And as you can see, we have a very thick border around each one of these posters. I don't really remember exactly why I did it that way. Maybe I just thought it looked cooler this way. And here's the one for Undertow. We've got like a beer bottle right here, and the lines are meant to represent a prison. And we have Anima, so we have the snake right there. And I don't quite remember exactly what these are. I think that might be rain. I don't remember exactly where my head was when I made this particular poster, but I think those might be raindrops. And then we have the spiral poster for Lateralus. I actually really like how this one turned out. It reminds me a lot of like late 80s, early 90s graphic design type of stuff where it's like really rough kind of. Anyway, I just love how this one turned out. All right, this one right here is a little bit more elementary, I would say, but I think that it still works really well for the album. So we've got like a pattern of these clouds right here, and then we've got the halo and the wings representing Maynard's mom's ascent to heaven. Boy, it took me several times to say that, but I really like the beauty in this one, especially with those colors. I think that it works really well for the album. All right, the last one up is Sphere Inoculum, and it has this golden syringe right here, and it looks like there is a V right here, possibly. I don't remember exactly why. I don't know if I just did it to kind of break up the monotony of the lines in the back, but it looks cool. Okay, and if all of you are interested, I did a song poster for every single Tool song on every single album. So obviously that would take a very long time to go through. If you want to see like a slideshow or something, I can put it together. I don't know if I'm going to necessarily offer any commentary on it because I don't know if I can talk for that long. But I will show you which one was my favorite so you can kind of get an idea of what they all looked like. But the idea of it was to visually illustrate the song with an image. And I kind of wanted all of the images to have the same feel to them, so I added these effects in. And I think it works really well. So this one is Rosetta Stoned, and maybe I'll show you a couple more. This right here is Ticks and Leeches from Lateralus, one of my favorite tracks from Tool. And here's the song Lateralus itself. I really wanted to make sure that it was really chaotic. And here's the one for the song Anima, obviously a reference to when he's talking about Learn to Swim. And I can't think of a better one to end with than 10,000 Days, Wings Part 2. And this is one of my favorite images just in general that I've ever found. But I really love doing each one of these, and I remember when I was putting together each one individually, I was making sure that I was listening to that song, just so I could get a general feel of how this could be visually represented with a single image. All right, here's a typographic lyrics poster that I did for Undertow. As you can see, it's very minimalist right here because the album cover itself is minimalist, but it actually works out really well. I love how the red kind of embracing type of shape, whatever this thing is supposed to be, actually shows really well through those lyrics. Okay, and here is a visual discography of Tool. So it has everything starting from 1990 going all the way to 2019. That's when I actually made this poster. And this was based on some kind of a space poster that I found on Pinterest, and I just thought it would look really cool if I adapted it to the discography of Tool. So it shows the release date of each one of their albums, including Opiate. It talks about right here in the middle, they were formed in 1990. Here is some information on each one of the albums itself. So like where it was released, recorded, studio, all that stuff. And then I've got like a little mini bio down here. And then here are the album sales for each one of the albums. Obviously the last date right here is 2019. It would be awesome if we could add to that one day. Adam did just give a recent interview talking about how they're working on a new album, and I look forward to hearing that in 2045. All right, and the last thing that we'll talk about is one of my favorite things that I've done, not just for Tool, but any project in general. So I had this idea of representing Tool's discography with lined up VHS tapes. My wife's a photographer, so what I had her do was line up all of these different VHS tapes, and then I went in and cut them out individually and lined them up and made sure that there were no repeats on the spines of the VHS tapes. This image is just one example. We photographed a whole bunch of them. And then after that, I went through and photoshopped out everything that you see on the spine of the case, and then went in and added images in that have to do with that particular song. And then I added the titles in, and I added a couple of references to the actual song itself, things that you would only know if you were like an ultra nerd. But I learned a ton of different techniques just from doing this project, and it was so much fun. The only downside is that it's very, very time consuming. So I obviously did one for Lateralus, and here is the one that I did for Anima, using the exact same techniques and just making sure that we have everything in there to make it look real. This one was also a lot of fun. I loved going in and researching different VHS spines to actually get an idea of how they should look, and then adding in little references here and there. And here's the one that I did for 10,000 Days. And this one was a lot of fun too. So we have the pot right here, and the type is a reference to money. And I'm particularly fond of how I did right into, where we actually have like a line going through the right into there. But like I said, projects like these take forever. All right, well, that was all of my Tool posters that I've designed. I hope that was inspiring for you. I hope you enjoyed seeing all of those different designs. Definitely let me know which one is your favorite down in the comments below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. I love talking about this kind of stuff. Please be sure to subscribe to support the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.